the truth. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist in church. Because I grew up in church and church school, I was in choir, right? I remember, I feel like I was like 3 years old in choir or something like that. At least 5. But I was in choir. This was in school and church. And I feel like I must have had a talent for singing or performing early on because I was the one always getting picked for solos. Scary. I was so scared to be on stage, man. But afterwards, I'll feel good because I would, oh, you did so good. You could sing. I felt good when people told me that. So I feel like the adrenaline rush, the stage fright was worth it. I grew up during the Thriller album of Michael Jackson. And to tell you the truth, I wasn't trying to sound like Michael Jackson. I was more like trying to sound like the gospel singers who I had to sing the solos for their songs. But I'm moving around my house like Michael Jackson. In the living room, trying to do his moves, dancing. Yeah. But I was always imitating the singers. It had to be around 3rd grade. And it was the first time I remember being asked, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said, well, one day I'm going to take over my father's business, but I'm also going to be an actor, singer, and a dancer. I'm going to be a performer. I'm going to be in movies and be in theater. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me, all through elementary and middle school. So now I'm singing all the time, and I'm in plays, and then middle school is over. So now I'm in my teens, I get to high school. But high school, I became a thug. I was thugging it. Being a thug at that time wasn't something that you were, it was something that you did. I was thugging it. Baggy jeans, the Tim boots, But I had to introduce that because it's funny. Because all this time I'm thugging it. I'm still in church school. I went to church high school too, Seventh-day Adventist high school. And I'm in church and I'm still in the choir. Mostly everybody in the choir was thugging it. We were Seventh-day Adventists, man. We were Seventh-day Bad Adventists. And it was around this time that my cousin formed Cypher Click. He was part of Lost Boys, and then, we had to have our own little crew. Everybody had a crew. So he formed Cypher Click. Now, for those of you who don't know what Cypher is, but it's supposed to be a circle of people. Cypher's a circle, a group of people supposed to be building knowledge. This was the times of the gods and goddesses, 5 percenters, building knowledge. But those people are building knowledge through rap. So it was a bunch of rappers. Now we would rap and we would do other things that I'm not going to say in this video because, kids might be watching. We got a lot of guys who are rappers, but we also had some singers. And I was one of the singers. So we used to do like hooks for the guys who were rapping, like, yo, you can sing, And I ain't saying hooks like in the studio. Nobody was in the studio. We were just rapping for each other. It was at that time that I met my singing partner. We got together, we like, yo, we should do music. So we started singing every single artist song. And a big one was McKnight, Boys to Men. I got this like the second bug from my partner. It's a McKnight song. Mind you, I hadn't found my voice yet because I was imitating, right? And I remember trying to imitate McKnight. And McKnight, he sings very breathy. He sings powerful, but he sings very breathy. One last cry, And I was trying to imitate that, not realizing that was not my voice. Man, I used to lose my voice and stuff like that. But I used to push it, and people would still say I sounded good. So I had that bug. So I'm doing talent shows, and now I'm singing with my singing partner. I remember I must have had a deja vu dream about some girl because I woke up the next morning and I'm trying to remember the girl's face. And I swore I saw the same girl at the bus stop. And I said to myself, oh, I remember you from last night in my dream. And I was like, yo, that sounds like a great song lyric. So I sang it to myself. I remember you from last night in my dreams. Right? And that's like a whole first part for it. I remember you from last night in my dreams. I never thought that it could be reality. So real to me. And then I told my singing partner it. I sang it to him. And he was like, yo. And he just comes up with, until you brightened up my day. I never thought it'd be this way. I'm so glad you're here to stay. And I was like, yo! And that was the beginning of me writing songs. I was like 16 years old. I wrote our first lyrics, right? You will never hear that song unless I redo it though. I have it somewhere on a cassette tape. Cassette tape! That's how old I am, people. But so me and my singing partner, we from that point, we just started, always together singing and stuff like that. Now mind you, I'm still a teen, right? So at 16, I started working at my father's shop. And while I'm there, all those songs, I forget what station plays these songs, but all those songs from when I was little, we'd be playing, old school R&B, and I'd be singing to the songs and singing in my head and wish I knew I was on stage. And to tell you the truth, I was getting depressed. It was okay though, because I still got to perform. You know where I got to perform? At this time, there was these things called chat lines. Chat rooms or whatever. And this was landline. This was no cell phone. You could call in to a number and a bunch of people would be on the chat line. You could talk to people from all over the place. So we would be on the chat line and me and my singing partner, we would sing our intro. And man, the girls would just click, click, click. And now we talking to girls because we could sing. Yo, that was a time. I swear, that was a time, people. So that was another bug, I was like, oh, shoot, I can sing and get girls, My other way of getting girls was writing love letters and being all romantic and stuff like that. Not really thug-like, So I still have the bug. But now, high school is over. Graduate, still working at my father's shop time to time, but I go to school for stage technology. I try to be sneaky with it, I try to become a performer by going through the back door. I figured if I went to school for stage technology, which is to learn everything about the behind the scenes of theater, building sets and stuff like that, I could do two things. I could learn how to use tools better so I could be better at working at my father's shop, but I could also be around the stage, therefore I'm around directors and other actors, and I could show off my talent while I'm working, and they'll be like, oh, wow, you could sing, can you dance, can you act, yeah, and then that's how I would get a role. That was my thought process. So I'm in school, and you really hands-on, so we had to build a stage for a theater company to come and perform. So I'm in the seat in the theater, and I'm watching this performance, and it just hit my heartstring. I said, I can't do this. I cannot be behind the scenes. I need to be on stage. And it wasn't it wasn't pride, I wasn't saying I bet you I could do better than they could, So no, it was man, these people are out there doing what I want to do. I was also getting a disillusion with the school system and college is a joke and all this stuff. I was becoming black conscious. So, and I'm not saying black conscious people are against college. I'm just saying that I was tired of being, truthfully, I guess I didn't want to owe money from loans and stuff like that. So I left school. And when I left, I knew my money would come from my father's shop, but I knew that being at my father's shop, I would not be able to pursue, I didn't feel like I'd be able to pursue my singing career and acting career. So now my new plan was to get a job as an actor. I know I wanted to do it all, but I figured acting would pay better than singing right away, because singing, you got to go through albums or trying to get shows and stuff like that. So I find out about auditions and stuff like that, and I go for my first audition. Mind you, I never trained to be an actor, so I'm but being in plays and being complimented, oh, you should do this professionally, and knowing that I wanted to do it, I said, yeah, I'm going to go and audition. Man, I went to a background agency, and the audition was really pay to get your photos taken, and we'll show you how to do your resume, and then you got to send them out. They sent them out too, no problem, and then I did start getting some work, that was my foot in the door to acting, and I got to meet some people and some stars, through doing background work and things like that, and I felt like I was doing it, wasn't making any real money yet, but I was in theater and things like that. And it was funny because I was getting theater gigs where I had to sing and act, and move, dance. So now my career has started. I still hadn't found my voice. I'm going to tell you about that in another video because that had to deal with my singing partner. So my singing partner and I, we're doing talent shows now, and singing, and we're meeting producers. We got to go into the studio with one of Mary J. Blige's producers, you know. And it's cool because he was from Queens, we from Queens, you know, and we like felt professional, you know. Don't get me wrong, we still have to pay. But he recorded our voice and everything. And I hated the way I sounded. Ooh, man, I hated my voice. Didn't even record So Real to Me. We recorded some other song and, you know, it was okay. From there, nothing really happened. And we met some other producers from the same talent show that put us with that producer. We met some other producers, which is going to lead to another video because now I have an album out on the internet that I never even knew got released from one of those producers. Another story for another time, right? But I'm still telling my singing journey, right? So I needed more income, right? And the other thing I wanted to do on film, always wanted to do this on film, was martial arts. Never had any formal training in martial arts, so I'm looking for a job, and there was an ad for an instructor teaching martial arts instructors with no experience. In other words, you would become a martial arts instructor. You didn't have to pay. He was going to train you, and I didn't notice at the time. Your pay would come from the jobs that he put you in. Because he was doing like, you know, everything for the community, you know, so put in his martial arts program and like after school programs and stuff like that. And he would get a cut of your check. So I become one of his instructors, and this is years later. So me and my singing partner, we're not really singing anymore. My singing partner had to get a job, so he went his way, I went my way. And so I'm not really singing, I'm not performing anymore. I'm doing martial arts because I want to do that on film eventually. So I become one of the instructors, you know. And then in the school, one of the schools I was working at, dance is another part of the after school program. So I see all these dancers and these kids performing, you know, they're singing and stuff. And I'm like, I forgot what it's like to be on stage. I need to go back. So I'll go back for another audition on my own. I think always having a singing partner made me feel like I was safe. I didn't have to be on my own. But now, having to do the audition process, I had to be on my own. So, and now I'm going to this audition for Periwinkle Theater for youth. And I would say truly professional gig. And I was the lead character. I was like 20-something years old playing like a 11, 10-year-old kid. And I'm only laughing about it because I know you see me with my beard and everything. Man, I have to shave every day, put on makeup. It's crazy. You know, but I loved it though. I loved it. I love being on stage, you know, and we performed for young audiences. And I was like a superstar to them. So I loved it. I love being on camera. I love being on stage, you know. So that was my first gig back. Then I got to be in Star, which was another thing, you know, and that's my professional career. And I got to sing with Glenda Eiffel, who was like a background singer for like a lot of calypso artists. So I got to sing in a calypso show. You know, my family's from Trinidad and Tobago, right? And calypso, birth of calypso, and soca. You know, birth of steel. Back in the days when I was in church, you know, I was playing a steel band, you know. So I got some professional stuff, you know, and then realized I needed to make even more money because I was not hustling as an artist. You gotta hustle because the gigs don't last, you know. I wasn't hustling, and you know, I need to pay bills, you know. So met my wife. I started taking on teaching jobs, theater. I even did art class. I'm saying all of this because I want to start back. I want to reemerge now as an artist, and my next few videos are gonna be like about how I'm doing that, telling you the story because I want to know your story. Like I love the why. Why did you start doing this? You know, how did you become a singer? Why did you become a singer though? What inspired you? So and literally that's what I want to know. I want to know what inspires you to sing. Who inspires you? I love origin stories. Origin. Tell me that in the comments. Like and subscribe so that you can get the next video in the journey. I'm in my 40s now. I'm about to do it because I do think that the music that I make and the movies I want to make and the theater that I want to make is going to benefit the world. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Origami. It's another art that I love. It's going to be a story behind that too. It won't be as much as this, but it's going to be a story. Ooh, almost. Take my daughter's ears. Shimon now. Shimon. May the power of Michael be with me right now. With the Shimonness. The Shimonness. You know, it's this piece right here that I just won't fluff up, you know? It have to fluff up. Does it look like a heart? I think so.